My name is Lydia Evans. I am 32 years old. I grew up in a rich family in Greenwich, Connecticut. From the outside, we looked perfect. We lived in a big white mansion with tall iron gates. My parents threw fancy parties with important guests. But inside that house, I never felt loved. My parents only cared about success. To them, I was a mistake. My dad, Charles, worked at a big company in New York. He was smart, powerful, and rich. But he never showed kindness. He thought kids were like investments. They should make money and make him proud. My mom, Veronica, used to be a writer. But she gave it up to be a rich man's wife. She spent her time playing golf, hosting parties, and teaching me how to smile without wrinkling my face. My brother Nathaniel was everything they wanted. He went to Princeton, married a senator's daughter, and now works at a big company. My sister Bianca used to win beauty contests. She says she works at a nonprofit, but we all know she lives off family money. Then there's me, the middle child, the odd one. I was never like them. While they loved money, fashion, and parties, I loved computers. At 12, I made my first game using Python on my mom's old laptop. While other girls went to prom, I joined a tech camp at MIT. But my family did not care. One night, my dad saw me coding and said, "That stuff is for weak boys." My mom just said staring at a screen would ruin my posture and asked who would marry a girl who wore glasses and typed all day. I remember my high school graduation. I had the highest math score in the state. But my parents did not come. They flew to Florida for a party. My brother went to a fancy event in New York. I got a scholarship to Caltech. My mom just rolled her eyes. She wanted me to study business at Wharton, then get an MBA and marry a rich man. I said no. I chose computer science. I paid the price for that choice. My parents were always disappointed. I tried to show them my research papers. They never read them. I invited them to my thesis presentation. My mom said she had a spa trip. My brother laughed and said, "Still figuring out your path?" I stopped telling them anything. They thought I had a boring tech job. I let them believe it. I even let them think I rented a tiny apartment, when really I had bought a small penthouse with money from my startup. I do not try to make them proud anymore. But deep down, I still ask myself, will they ever see me as more than just a failure? I remember the day I got into MIT. I was 17. I had refused to apply to Wharton like they wanted. When the thick envelope came, I screamed with joy. But my mom just called from downstairs, annoyed. My sister was practicing a dance. I folded the letter and put it away quietly. No hugs. No praise. When my parents found out, my mom said MIT was full of nerds with glasses and no real social life. My dad didn't even look at me. He said MIT was for people who fixed machines, not Evan's daughters. I didn't argue. I had learned not to. That fall, I moved into my dorm. My window looked out at the river. Every night, I sat by it and whispered to myself, "You deserve this." I studied hard. I worked a side job just to buy food, books, and flowers for my Aunt CLA, the only one in the family who remembered my birthday. In my second year, I found what I truly loved, using artificial intelligence to help doctors. I was so excited, I mentioned it at Christmas dinner. My mom thought I wanted to be a nurse. I told her I wanted to build AI tools to help doctors make faster, better decisions. My dad smirked and said I should learn business before talking about hospitals. I said nothing. But I had already taken hard math classes and started a tool to detect lung cancer. They still saw me as the silly girl with computer dreams. I graduated with perfect grades. I was invited to stay for research. They did not come to my graduation. My mom said my sister had a dance show. My brother sent a short message. "Heard you graduated. Congrats." After that, I worked at a small health startup. I made $64,000 a year. I paid my own bills. When my dad found out, he called me. He said, "So that's what tech school got you? A job worth a used car." I thought about that line for months, even when I was fixing bugs and working late. He never asked what I really wanted. While my family was partying on fancy beaches, I was sitting on the floor of my tiny apartment, sketching an idea. I wanted to make something that would help people in small towns talk to medical experts. I called it Lifeline. I had no logo, no money, no help, just a big dream. And for the first time, I was doing something not to prove myself, but because it mattered. 3 months later, I used all my savings, about $47,000, and started coding. I told no one. I went to my sister's wedding in a cheap dress, smiled politely, and ignored all the rude comments from my relatives. They still thought I was lost. What they didn't know was that I was about to pitch my idea to a hospital for cancer patients. I named the platform PulseLink. It was simple, but full of meaning. I had a little money left. I hired one software engineer and a designer. We rented a tiny office in a building that used to sell medical supplies. Our desks were cheap. The air conditioner was loud. I only let myself buy sushi once a week with a discount coupon. We worked day and night. We did not have money for fancy testing tools, so we asked friends to help us try the app. Some nights, we worked under dim lights, sipping watery coffee. I even cleaned the bathroom myself because we could not afford a cleaner. But in that little office, with all the struggle and hard work, I finally felt alive. 3 months later, we built our first working version. It was a system that helped people with long-term health problems find the right doctors. It could sort appointments by urgency, location, and insurance. It worked well enough, but we needed money to keep going. I made a presentation, a demo, and started asking investors for help. The first meeting was in a fancy glass office. The man in charge, wearing gold glasses, looked at me and asked, "Do you have a male co-founder?" Health tech startups usually need someone with real-world experience. I said, "You mean a man?" He just laughed. I walked out in the snow. My hands were cold, but my heart wasn't broken, just a little tired. I kept going. Pitch after pitch. Meeting after meeting. Some people said I should join another startup first. Others said I should give up being CEO and let someone else take over. I did not argue, but I also did not give up. Then, one day at a small medical conference, everything changed. I had no fancy booth. Just a printed poster and our shared laptop. While I explained our system to some medical students, I saw a woman standing quietly in the back. After everyone left, she came up and asked, "Did you make this?" I nodded. She introduced herself. Her name was Grace Keller. She used to be the CEO of a private hospital group. Now she helped small healthcare projects like mine. I gave her my business card. A week later, we met at a small cafe. I showed her everything: our plan, numbers, costs, and risks. She didn't interrupt or ask about my background. She only asked, "If I invest, what will you do first?" I said, "Hire a medical privacy expert. I want to make sure the platform follows all the rules before we grow." She smiled and said, "I'll invest $150,000. Are you ready for pressure?" I said yes. I had already been rejected 36 times. I was ready. From that moment, PulseLink truly came alive. I hired 2 more developers, a medical coordinator, and we moved into a new office near MIT. It had sunlight, an elevator, and a giant whiteboard. Grace never tried to control everything, but she always showed up when it mattered. She was there when we ran out of money because a hospital delayed their payment. She was there when our system had a big bug and the team panicked. She was there when I was about to sleep on the office floor for 3 nights in a row. She told me, starting a health tech company isn't about proving yourself. It's about fixing what's broken. I nodded. I was finally starting to understand. This was more than just a business. It was a lifeline for patients who were being forgotten by the system. Then, out of the blue, my mom called. It had been almost a year. She didn't ask how I was doing. She just said, "We're having a party for your father's 60th birthday. Don't be late. And wear something normal, not that weird stuff you wore last time." I looked at my laptop. A hospital contract was open on the screen. St. Matthew Hospital in Philadelphia had just agreed to test PulseLink. I didn't tell anyone. Not because I wasn't proud, but because I was used to keeping my happiness to myself. That night, our system matched a Parkinson's patient with a doctor 300 miles away, just 32 minutes after they submitted their request. I sat at my desk and cried. Quiet tears dripping onto the keyboard as I kept typing. No big celebration. Just deep, quiet joy. After 6 weeks, the results shocked the hospital. The wait time to see specialists dropped by 61%. Missed appointments were cut in half. Patient satisfaction went above the state average. Soon, other hospitals in Texas and Oregon asked to work with us. When we reached 50,000 matches, I knew it was time to grow bigger. Grace invited me to her office. On the table was a stack of papers. She said, "Lydia, it's time for a Series A investment." The number was $6.2 million. Enough to build a full team, improve our tech, and make sure we met government rules. But it also meant pressure, public reports, goals, and attention. She asked, "Are you sure?" I said, if I wasn't sure, I wouldn't be here. The next 3 months were a blur. I pitched our company to 30 investors. I showed them charts, growth plans, and how we could work with Medicare. Some backed out. Some wanted me to step down as CEO. I didn't agree. 8 stayed quiet, then all sent offers. We ended up raising $7.5 million from 2 firms, Riverside Ventures and Marlowe Capital. I signed the deal on the same day as my father's birthday party. I still went to the party. I wore a simple black suit and pinned a small silver letter B on my lapel, not to stand out, but to remind myself who I had become. The party was like always, expensive wine, fancy flowers, and boring talk about stocks and vacations. I walked in. No one looked. Nathaniel glanced, then turned away. My father tapped my shoulder like he was checking if my coat was heavy. My mom said, "Be careful not to step on the new rug." I looked at her and calmly said, "I signed a $7 million deal for my company today. My shoes might be cheaper than your rug, but I think I've earned the right to walk wherever I want." She froze. Nathaniel frowned. No one said a word. At 11 p.m., I went back to the office. The lights were still on. The team was running final tests. I brought pizza and coffee and sat down with them. We worked until 3 in the morning. 2 months later, we moved to a new office in Kendall Square. It had 4 floors, glass walls, whiteboards, and a coffee machine. For the first time, I had my own office with a door. That was the day TechBridge put us on their front page with the headline, "Human-Centered Tech. PulseLink is changing how America accesses healthcare." I got invited to speak at big events. Harvard wanted to interview me. Forbes added me to their 30 under 30 list in health tech. But I said no to most public events. I knew there was still a lot of work to do. The media could talk all they wanted, but I knew one thing: the product had to work. It had to save real lives. That spring, we started preparing to take PulseLink public. I hired a financial advisor, a legal team, and began building a 3-year plan. On a Friday afternoon, during a meeting with lawyers, Grace handed me her phone with an email open. Goldman Sachs wanted to lead our IPO. Their first estimate of PulseLink's value? $14 million. I sat back, holding my cup of cold tea. I didn't jump with excitement. I just felt something deep inside me say, I made it. And for a moment, I thought about my tiny apartment back then. The broken printer. That cold winter night at MIT when I promised myself, one day, they will not be able to ignore me. That fall, I went to another dinner at my parents' house. The smell of roast meat and Mindy candles filled the air. Everything felt the same, fancy, cold, and full of pressure. I arrived exactly on time, but my mom still gave me a disapproving look because I didn't come early to help set up the wine glasses. Bianca walked down the stairs in a shiny blue dress. Nathaniel stood by the fireplace, chatting with our uncle about land deals. I wore a black jumpsuit, simple hair, little makeup. No one asked me how I was. No one mentioned PulseLink. They probably still thought I worked some small tech job, doing something unimportant in the background. Then dinner began. Everyone sat at the long table. My dad stood and raised his glass. "Before we eat, your mother and I want to share some updates about the family assets," he said. Everyone went quiet. He talked about family values, discipline, reputation, and being responsible with money. Then he turned to Nathaniel. "Nathaniel has managed the family fund very well. He will keep leading the main portfolio. And we've decided to give him the lakeside house in Vermont, so he can start his eco project. People clapped softly and smiled. I said nothing. Then my mom turned to Bianca. When you and Jack get married this December, we'll give you the little house in Beacon Hill. You deserve a beautiful start to your new life. I looked up. I was not jealous. I just knew what was coming next. Then my dad looked at me. His face changed. No smile. No warmth. Just that same cold stare I had seen since I was a teenager. Lydia, he said, your mother and I have decided that it's time for you to take full responsibility for your life. Starting this year, we will no longer provide financial support. I took a deep breath. They had not given me a single cent since college. But hearing them say it out loud in front of everyone still stung. My mom added, and of course, the bigger inheritances will go to the ones who follow family values. Nathaniel gave a slight nod. Bianca gave my hand a fake little squeeze, then pulled back quickly like she did not want to mess up her nails. I looked around the room. Fancy oil paintings on the walls. Polished silverware. Candles flickering softly. Everyone seemed so sure I would never amount to anything. I asked calmly, so just to be clear, you are cutting me off from money I have not touched in over 10 years? No one answered. And the reason? Because I didn't follow the plan you made for me? Because I didn't marry someone rich? My father shrugged. It's simple. We support the ones who are growing in the right direction, not those chasing silly tech dreams. I laughed. It was a dry, short laugh. Then I stood up. If you think I need your money, maybe you should check the latest issue of TechBridge or Forbes. Or even last week's Wall Street Journal. Bianca blinked. Nathaniel looked confused. My parents just stared. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it from my purse. It was Ava, the CFO of PulseLink. I answered, standing right there at the table. Her voice came through loud and clear. Everyone heard it. Lydia, quick update from the IPO team. Goldman just confirmed the pre-IPO valuation. $14 million. And CNBC wants to interview you Monday morning. The whole room went silent. I looked around. Not one person lifted their glass. They could not say a word. No one smiled. No one called me the rebellious one anymore. I ended the call, put my phone back in my bag, and looked at my father. You made your choice, Mr. Evans. But do not worry. I will handle my own life from now on. I turned and walked out of the room before dinner was even served. They stayed behind, still stuck in their belief that I would never become anything. But before I even reached the hallway, my phone buzzed again. The name on the screen made my heart race. Ethan, from SoftBank. I glanced back. My father was gripping his wine glass tightly. My mother stared at me, worried and unsure. Nathaniel looked like he had just seen a ghost. I picked up the call and spoke clearly. Ethan, I am in the middle of a family dinner. What is going on? His voice was full of excitement. Lydia, the board just approved the funding. SoftBank is investing $40 million in PulseLink. Based on the updated numbers, your company is now worth over $100 million. Congratulations. The room behind me went completely silent. I took one more step toward the door but stopped, keeping the phone to my ear, letting everyone hear every word. Ethan continued. We will send the official paperwork tomorrow morning. Also, CNBC still wants you live on Monday. SoftBank plans to announce the news this afternoon. Should I set up the press conference? Have them send the schedule first. I will confirm it tonight. And Ethan, thank you. Thank you for believing in my vision when nobody else did. I ended the call. Still, no one spoke. The sound of silverware, glasses, even breathing, it all stopped. It was like time had frozen. I walked back to the table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. I looked directly at my father. So, we were talking about cutting me off financially, right? He said nothing, but his eyes no longer held contempt. Now, they showed caution. That was the look I had waited my whole life to see. Nathaniel broke the silence. SoftBank? Wait, is that a real deal? Yes. I smiled. And it is not the first investment. Just the biggest so far. Bianca gently pushed her wine glass away. She looked like she had swallowed something bitter. My mother quickly shifted her tone. Lydia, that is really something to be proud of. Why did you not tell us earlier? Because every time I tried, you cut me off. With stories about Bianca's wedding dress or Dad's new diet. That was a misunderstanding, sweetie. No, it was a choice. You chose not to ask, not to care, and not to believe. My father leaned back for the first time. He looked smaller somehow. PulseLink is really worth over $100 million? Yes, and still growing. SoftBank will help us enter Asia by next year. Goldman Sachs is leading the IPO. You might know Marcus Lanning, he is your old partner, right? My father's hand tightened around the chair. He had no more words. I took a breath and smiled. So now, the daughter you called lost is leading the future of healthcare in America. Lydia. Nathaniel spoke again, trying to be polite. If there is a way to partner with our family fund. I raised my hand. PulseLink does not take family money. We only work with people who believed in us before the world did. Bianca tried to smile sweetly. Maybe I can talk to Jack. His campaign is looking at healthcare platforms. Bianca, I said calmly. My appearance at political events is not free anymore. Our rate starts at $60,000. That does not include strategy fees. My mother gasped. She had never heard me speak like that, clear, strong, unapologetic. I stood up again, looking around the room that once made me feel so small. Now, it looked smaller than ever. You all once said I did not match the family's values. I agree. But now, it seems this family wants to match my value. No one argued. I grabbed my bag and turned to go. Before leaving, I looked back. You do not need to worry about the inheritance anymore. Because now, I am the inheritance. And I walked out like a stranger stepping out of an old chapter. A chapter that no longer belonged to me. 2 days later, a huge bouquet arrived at the office. The receptionist had to use a cart to bring it in. A small card was attached, written in my mother's handwriting. We are truly proud of you. Please let us be a part of your success. Love, Mom and Dad. I left the flowers untouched in the meeting room all day. The next day, Nathaniel emailed me from his work account. Are you free for lunch? I have ideas for a partnership between PulseLink and our fund. We can call it a family round. 2 hours later, Bianca posted an Instagram story. A collage of me at a tech summit with the caption. So proud of my brilliant sister. The future of healthcare is female. She even added a gold heart sticker. I did not reply. Not because I was angry, but because I had wished for messages like those back when I was freezing in my tiny apartment, eating instant noodles, working all night just to pay my designer. And they said nothing then. But now that the spotlight was on, they wanted to stand next to it. On Monday, I reached the office by 7 a.m. The SoftBank press conference aired live on CNBC. My inbox was flooded with emails from investors, hospitals, and universities. By 11 a.m., my assistant walked in. Your father is downstairs. He does not have an appointment, but he wants to see you. I looked up. Alone? No. He is with Mr. Gordon, the family lawyer. And they brought a contract draft. I smiled faintly. They did not waste time. I made them wait 15 minutes before calling them into the third-floor lounge. That floor had no logos. Just quiet gray chairs and a glass table. I wanted them to feel like outsiders. My father shook my hand. His tone softer now. Lydia, I want to start fresh. What exactly does start fresh mean? From when you cut me off without asking how I was surviving? Or from the moment you realized I was no longer a burden? He looked uncomfortable. I was too harsh before. But now, our family needs to stand together. PulseLink is the future. If your mother and I could invest. I raised a hand. You are not a good fit for our future. You chose to stay out. And now, there are no seats left. But you are my daughter, he said, trying not to lose control. We are family, Lydia. I stood and looked him in the eyes. Family is not a backstage pass you use when the stock price goes up. You are not stakeholders. And no one in this family gets to call my company ours. I walked to the door and opened it. We are done here. If you want a meeting next time, send it through legal. PulseLink has rules now. My father stood, eyes full of anger but not speaking. He understood. I was no longer the girl waiting for his approval after every school award. After they left, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. A message from Bianca popped up. Jack nominated you for an award. I know I was wrong. Please, can I try again? I closed the screen. That night, I sat alone on my apartment balcony. And for the first time ever, the silence around me felt like peace. Boston sparkled beneath me. The phone kept buzzing with invitations, interviews, and celebration offers. I ignored them all. I poured a glass of wine, not to celebrate, but to mark something quiet and personal. For too long, I had waited for my family to change. But now, I had changed the way they existed in my life. The boundary was drawn, and I had no plans to erase it. PulseLink's IPO took place on a bright, cloudless morning in April. On the massive NASDAQ screen in Times Square, our logo appeared, a white background with a rising blue heartbeat. Below the screen, my team stood proudly in matching polo shirts, holding signs and smiling in the fresh spring air. I did not make a long speech. I said just one sentence. This is not just a financial event. Today is a statement: women in tech do not need permission. They only need to be heard. By the end of the day, PulseLink was valued at over $220 million. I still owned 47% of it. I did not tell my family. There was no party at the Evans estate. No clinking glasses or polite toasts. Instead, I celebrated with the same team I started with at a small riverside spot where we once sat with nothing. We ordered tacos, chili fries, cold beer. No laptops. Just laughter. A week later, I launched something new, the Horizon Fund. A support fund for young women in healthcare technology and AI. I used $12 million from my own stake to start it. It had its own office, its own team, and no ties to PulseLink. I asked Dr. Renee Caldwell, an expert from Johns Hopkins, to lead it. We started by giving scholarships to 15 high school girls from low-income areas in New Hampshire. We helped them attend a tech summer camp at MIT. Every thank you letter I received was printed, framed, and hung on the Horizon Fund's meeting room wall. Around that time, my mother sent me an email. Your father really wants to see you. Just one lunch. Not about money or business. He's proud of you. I agreed, but not at some old private club where he used to host his banking friends. I picked a quiet cafe in South Boston. One that served roast beef with passion fruit sauce. No suits required. He arrived 12 minutes late. Still in a gray suit, but for the first time no tie. He looked across the table. I was wrong, he said. I nodded. I know. And I'm okay now because I don't need to hear it anymore. He paused. Did not argue. Finally, he placed a small box on the table. It's your grandfather's watch. I think it should be yours. I did not open the box. But I also did not push it away. After that day, I did not see him for 6 months. But he started sending me books. On medical innovation, Japan's healthcare systems, and stories of women pioneers in the field. No notes. Just books. I read every single one. At work, I still came in every day. But I no longer stayed late into the night. I started running in the mornings. I took up piano. I attended tech conferences not as a speaker, but as a quiet listener. Sometimes, I watched young founders, many years younger than me, speaking with the same bold dreams I once carried. It made me proud. I kept my distance from family. Not completely cut off, but not close. I skipped Bianca's second wedding party, but sent a bouquet of white orchids. I did not answer Nathaniel's calls. But when he texted to say his daughter was born, I replied, "Congratulations." Nothing more. I saw my mother again at a charity fundraiser sponsored by PulseLink. She wore a lavender dress and stood with political wives, acting like she had never told me to lower my ambition. But when she saw me enter, she stepped away from the circle and walked over. "Do you have a few minutes?" she asked. I nodded. We stepped out onto the balcony. The wind was soft. She looked at me, not as someone to fix, but as someone she finally wanted to understand. "I do not fully understand what you do," she said. "But I know I was wrong. For a long time." I looked down at my hands. The same hands that once held orange juice she gave me in the mornings. The same hands that once shook when I was scolded for standing too proudly. Now those hands held a company and myself. I forgive you, I said. But I will not go back to being the daughter you tried to shape. I live on my terms now. She nodded. And for the first time, I think she really understood what that meant. That night, I went home to my quiet apartment by the docks. I opened the windows, sat in my leather chair, and began reading the latest report from the Horizon Fund. An email popped up. It was from a 17-year-old girl in Maine.